Hi, welcome to Dogman Teepee Hunting, and if you're listening to this, it will be on the Interdimensional Voyagers podcast. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate that. Remember, if you like this, then like, share, subscribe. It just helps a small channel like this to know that we're bringing you the content that you want. If we're not, leave a comment below. And because I read every single one and I do answer them. So just let us know, because this is as much your show as it is anyone else's. You're taking the time to watch it. I appreciate that, and that's fine. Who I've got today is I've had on before, Chris Machin. He's part of the CE5 Group and an avid UAP UFO watcher. He's got fantastic kit, cameras, and he watches the sky like a hawk. And I must say, he comes up with some incredible footage. And what he's done, he sent me over a lot of footage. And I've bundled it all together because there's so much of it. I've bundled it all together for you to watch. And Chris is going to talk us through some of it. But first, he's going to talk us through some of the new developments that CE5 Group are coming up with, and some of the things he's experienced just recently. So it's been a while, and I'm pleased to say he's back with us, and I should bring him on now. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Phil. How are you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, thank you ever so much for coming, mate. I appreciate it.
It's
I
a
really
pleasure.
do.
Always.
So how's things been going in the sky?
Very, very interesting. It's been. We were very worried at the end of last year when the bad weather came that obviously we can't get out as much. The venues that we choose are generally no fires. You're not allowed to. So we couldn't pitch up a tent up there and maybe get out during the colder months. We did have a quite a pleasant short evening up there at Bradgate Park a couple of weeks ago, and it was quite funny because we got there, it was a little bit slushy on the ground, and we watched it over about half an hour freeze solid while we were there. And as we left about 2, we handled it for about 2 hours. We didn't get, in fact, we did get, we got some flashes that evening, which was very interesting. They didn't show up on any sky scanners or any airport traffic. We got a group of these flashes. I'll have to dig out the footage for that. I've still got several pieces of unseen footage that I've yet to go through and take off. But what I've given you, Phil, a lot of that has been captured over the winter from my backyard. I've got like a football field not far from me. I sometimes go over if the ground's not too wet. I'll pop over to the football field. Got a cracking view of the sky. Always get to see something over there, shooting stars, satellites, and every now and again, obviously something a bit unusual. But in the footage that the file that I've sent you, I think it's around about 60 clips in total. That the group, myself and the group, the CE5 Leicester private group, if anyone would like to find us on Facebook, that what we've captured in the past 9 months. And like I say, there is still a little bit of footage that I need to go through. I know there's some unusual stuff on the stuff that I've yet to go through, but the file I've passed you, it's been an interesting winter, so we haven't been able to get out. However, I've on the clear nights where I know it's not going to rain, I've got a little quiet dark spot in the corner of my garden, and if I put the camera there and just leave it there, I film for half hour at a time. I'll pop back out there. Some nights, if it's clear, I'll let it go for 6-7 hours. If not, if it starts to cloud over, I'll put it in after a few hours. But in that footage that I've got from my garden, I must say this at this point, I don't practice CE5 all the time. I do not meditate all the time. I do periodically meditate. I usually do grounding meditations if I'm stressed, upset, or anything. But the CE5, I try and stay away from anything that could come into my house. I don't want anything in my house. However, we have seen several things over the past 6 months in my house that I would definitely constitute as some form of hitchhiker effect from one of our most profound experiences last year.
That's interesting. So,
Yeah.
so you've got this. It's interesting you mentioned that you had this. So it's quite a tangible fear that you have
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah.
of something following you inside your
In
house.
my house. The thing is, Phil, I think I've spoke to you before. I've seen several things in my
Mm,
house.
yeah.
We've had some very strange, what we call events. I lost a phone years ago when we were living abroad. And this phone, it was an old Nokia style phone. In fact, no, sorry, it was an old fake BlackBerry style phone. It had a little keyboard on it, and I lost it. And we could not. We turned the flat upside down where we were living on the Isle of Man, and we couldn't find it. And anyway, we when we moved back to England about 2 years later, we bought a couch off of Gumtree, and we had it delivered to our house. And it was just a second-hand one. It was just something so the dog. We'd got a new puppy. We didn't want anything brand new that the dog could chew or ruin. And my missus, when she got it back, she got the Hoover out. She pulled the cushions out and found the phone. She found the phone in England, in this couch that we just bought off of Gumtree. It had all my phone numbers on it and everything. So that was the first weird thing that we had in this house. Second weird thing, I was sat next to a blue being in my front room one evening, in full 3-dimensional psychedelic. She was absolutely beautiful, and I never experienced anything like it. Definitely feminine deity. The only way I could describe it as a deity, it wasn't a alien looking or anything like that. She was almost like a Rama style blue goddess. And then so we went to. I've seen several other things in the house. I see the rose outside my front door. I've seen orbs in the sky, just literally in my back garden, 20 meters above my garden. And then we had an amazing evening at Bradgate Park with our CE5 last August, and where we see. In fact, you done the imagery for me, Phil. It was the blue orbs.
Yes,
You
yes,
remember doing
yeah.
them? Yeah.
I remember doing them. Yeah,
But
yeah, I do. Yeah,
there's a little story behind them as well. We've sent them off to Nottingham University, to the entomology department and physics department, who have both got the entomology department has asked me to literally go and catch one. He said, if you catch one, it would likely confirm a new species in the UK. However, we certainly don't think I don't think we were able to catch one. But after that experience in Bradgate Park, where we filmed them blue orbs, since that day, there's several members of the group that have reported seeing that have this almost like a presence around them. I've seen it while I've been driving. I will see blue, see-through. It's always in peripheral vision, always, but they're there. They're very blue, see-through, like orb shapes. I've seen like a blue bolt of lightning shoot through my front door. And my wife, just literally 2 weeks, maybe even less than that, maybe a week after we had that experience at Bradgate, she come bombing downstairs at about 2 o'clock in the morning one morning. She said, babe, did you see that massive blue flash? I said, I didn't. I was downstairs with the light on. I don't know. I can't remember what I was doing. But she said, no, it was in the bedroom. She said, I didn't know if you'd see it. She said it was so bright. So even my wife has experienced this blue energy and it seems I've always seen things in my peripheral vision, always. And the color blue, like an indigo or electric indigo blue, has always stuck out in my mind as a not a favorite color, but that would be, if I could pick a color for my own energy, that would be it, definitely.
And it's a see-through being. It's like a see-through.
It's like a mist.
Translucent.
Yeah. And we had it funny. My wife, she took a photo about a couple of years ago, I think it was. And she took a photo, and in the background there was the window, and there was in the shot there was this glowing blue orb in the shot. So when we looked at it, when I see that photo, much later, it was probably about 2 or 3 months ago, I looked at it and I said, "Oh my God, we've got one on camera. We've got it. We've got a picture." And she said, "No. She said that was the light of this particular lamp shining in the window that's given this effect." And I thought, do you know what? If I had to describe what I was seeing in my van, sometimes in the back of the van, this picture would be a very good way to do it. It actually captures what I see. But what I see it in while I'm driving, while I'm in the back of in all areas where there are no blue lights.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
interesting,
yeah,
isn't it?
and then obviously, well, I've spoke to you. My wife's had several health problems. And myself, I've now currently experiencing health problems myself. Whether it's all related, I don't know, but we've certainly experienced some form of like a hitchhiker effect from our experience at Bradgate Park last year, 100%. And I'm not the only one either. There are other members of the group that have reported unusual things. Let's put it like that. And one member in particular also is reporting this blue type energy that is around them at most of the time. So they say.
So your colleagues also they have they experienced like any ill effects?
I don't think so. They haven't really reported any. In fact, in some cases, quite the opposite. I don't want to speak on their behalf. I think it'd be a little bit unfair. In fact, I've said to you one day, Phil, maybe you could come and meet us, meet the group. There's some of the members of the group that adamantly will not absolutely under any circumstances go online or go public with what they experience or what they see. We tried this with one of the other members last year, if you remember, Phil, and he's lovely fella, and he's probably the most prolific experiencer in this country. Yet he's so elusive. He's very hard to actually get out, you know. And he's undoubtedly he's also been under in the past. I don't know about now, but he's been under some form of surveillance of some sort regarding this topic, but he's never been able to get to the bottom of that, you know. So
yeah, sure. Is it you know all these things people experience, you know, with the CE5 group and the orbs, and does yourself and do they, including your wife, do they think it is of UAP or alien? Is it from that side of things?
Do you know what I think? The more this is related to what we see. If the thing is, if we were calling in hard discs or hard triangles into our CE5 meetings, and we were getting them experiences with these hard, what I would call hard objects, discs, triangles, and things, then yeah, I would possibly say that, you know, some of that possibly could have come from possibly another planet, but that's not what we're seeing. We see, when we're out, we see a lot of light orbs. Now, these light orbs, possibly they would be scouts, that's been mentioned, from mothership, a bigger craft. But I personally think, due to the way we seem to be able to, I don't think contact's the right word for what we do. I think they're attracted to us because of what we do with our minds. So this is definitely consciousness related. These orbs are consciousness related. Where they're from, I don't know. But I don't get the impression this is like an alien thing. But this is more something that is possibly been here forever, since before us, or maybe have originated from this planet. You know, some people think that that maybe aliens, everything can be explained by the alien terminology, but I think there's so much more going on, Phil. I think you've got several different things going on here, and what we do, the CE5, is consciousness related. Yes, it could be that if you do the projections and the meditation correctly and deep enough, that you could quite possibly contact aliens themselves, beings from other planets. But what we're doing, I believe we're contacting stuff that's actually already here. And contact, I must go back to that. I don't believe. I believe Ross Coulter actually put it in a nutshell the other day, and it's. I believe there's a correlation between what we do with the meditation and the amount of activity, strange activity we see in the sky. There is a correlation between that, but is that causation? We can't prove that. We just can't prove if that is the cause of that. And in the more I do, so I when I put the camera in the garden, I named my file Sky Fishing. I call it Sky Fishing. It's just so simple, and that is exactly what I'm doing. And but at the same time, we can have these absolutely magical close-up events when we do the CE5. But even if I don't do the CE5 and I point my camera to the sky, I'm still catching things. In fact, I'm catching more things doing that.
Do you use lasers, like laser pointers or anything
Yes.
like that?
So if we're out as a group, what we generally will have a couple of people have like spotting or having a look for activity, and then you've got a couple with the camera. So we use the laser pointer to say, "Oh, there's one moving there. You know, we'll film that."
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. While we're talking, I made it quite public saying that, you know, with all the drone business going on, I said it would come to a halt, you know, in January. I thought it would like sort of quieten down and come to a halt. I just had a feeling that, you know, because it's sort of this sort of things happened, if you like, you know, before. You know, with sightings, and then they sort of like just kind of happen, are really intense, and then just die a death. They just go. That's it. End of story. Do you what's your take on these drones? Just, I know it's a bit of a broad question, but let me ask you from the point of view of some of the drones I know are the man-made ones and military ones, but there's some that I've seen, you know, and this is only Chris. This is not me going out there. This is me just watching YouTube and watching videos. And there's some which are just incredible. It can't be man-made. The way they're pulsing.
No. I think we've got, again, it goes back to, I think there's several things happening at once there. So what you're likely to have is an incursion by a non-human drone, if you like, or a UFO, yeah? And then you'll have drones being sent up by the FAA to go and have a look at this sighting. A lot of it possibly secret technology. So the public, because it's secret technology, we're not supposed to know about it. And by the looks of it, some of this stuff is pretty big. Like they're talking like truck size drones. These are not little hobby drones, you know.
No.
And then so you'll have a mixture of things. So you'll have people, oh my God, we're seeing these UFOs. Well, technically, yeah, it could be that has been a UFO, a single one, but you've had 10 drones sent by the FFA to go and inspect it, go and have a look, see what's going on, that are classified.
Yeah, but if they're sent by the FAA, how come those drones that they sent up haven't got lights which are approved by the FAA?
I can't answer that, Phil.
And those
I'm only giving the
transponders.
scenario because
Yeah.
they're offering no explanation at the moment for that. Trump, or I think it was Trump, or one of the administration categorically said, yes, we know about these. The FAA know about these. However,
Yeah, it was Trump. It was Trump.
it was Trump, yeah. So, however, they've also reported these drones, strange drones, over every major city in the whole world. Everywhere. They are everywhere. They've been seen in England. They've been seen in Russia, China. That is not all the FAA. And if it is, why has no one declared war on America for spying?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've got very close links. I think I spoke to you before about this with Lakenheath, Mildenhall. I used to work on Lakenheath base and Mildenhall. I worked on the terminal there, and a few years back, it was in the 1990s, but I wasn't military, never been military. I worked on there as a contractor. So I was brought on to help build the 900 Dorms building, which is opposite the running track in Lakenheath. So I was a contractor doing on price work, train trunking all the way around these flats and the corridors for cabling and stuff like that to go on to all the tray work. Anyway, so I was happy doing that. And a couple of like strange things happened while I was there. I remember a couple of things happening. One, the whole site coming to a stop because they found a buried horseman with a horse on our building site, and that was where they found that. Yeah, and the archaeologists had to come. The police came first of all.
Wow,
then the archaeologists. Yeah, and he was buried on top of his horse. It was a big site they excavated, and he was on top of his horse, right, Chris, and yeah, quite well preserved, you know. And they even found, I was talking to the archaeologist there, and I said, "What's that you're picking up?" Really delicately, they were picking up really, really delicately, and it was a little leather bag. And inside the bag, they didn't open it there. They waited until they went back to the lab. But when he came back and I saw him again, he said, "Yeah." I said, "What was inside there?" He said, "Herbs and some coins."
No way.
And I said, what's the herbs for? He said, well, back in the day, he said, spices and herbs were quite widely sought after, you know, because, you know, especially like kind of things like, you know, there's some herbs which you could only get not indigenous to this country. He said,
oh yeah, no, like cloves and things they were brought from
other sides exactly,
of the known world, you know. So
saffron stuff like that, you know, it was quite a thing to trade, you know. So yeah, that was one thing. But also I was going out with a girl at the time who was sort of half American, half English, and I met her on the base. And her father, I had kids with her in the end, but her dad was a chief master sergeant, American chief master sergeant on base working on helicopters. And he showed me one day, like he went into a hangar and there was an F-15 there. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. You know, getting really that close, you know, I was like, wow, you know, and the helmet itself, you could see the helmet. I couldn't put it on because it's like custom made for a pilot, but it's like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of pounds just for the helmet. And, but the tech they had back in the 90s, incredible. And he said one funny thing to me. He said, do you know what? Because I said to him, I said, do you know what? I worry about living in Lakenheath with his stepdaughter because I said, you know, if anywhere's going to be hit, it's going to be Lakenheath. He said, do you know what, Phil? He said, no, you're wrong. You're in the safest place possible. And I said, really? I said, but surely they're going to send bombs. They're going to send them to where the attack strike squadron is from, like Europe. There's only a base in Germany and a base in Lakenheath. You know, I said this is where the main attack F-15s at the time were, and he said no. He said because it's so well defended. He said what you got to realise if there's any attack from missiles or anything else, he said we have contingencies in place which will take that missile down miles. This is back in the 90s, miles away before it gets into our airspace. We will know, we will detect it. We're felt well, because of communication based felt well. They call it the golf balls. We will know and we will take it down. He said our weaponry, the missiles we got, they look invisible, but they pop up from the ground. And they just go woof, 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 like that. They skin like that, and they just like send off these little tiny, a whole battery of tiny little missiles that just like take down whatever. And yeah, so he said, yeah, actually, it's quite safe. The village itself is quite safe because the base is safe. We'll make sure the airspace and around the village, because you have to remember that the personnel live in a village. A lot of the officers don't live on base. They live on private rented accommodation in the village, nice houses. They don't want to live in flats and stuff. So he said, so yeah. So when the drone thing was happening, I was scratching my head because I thought, well, from what, and he was the chief master sergeant at the time. He's retired now, but he's chief master sergeant at the time, worked on helicopters, and at the time he didn't know about the drone business. It was long before. And even then, in the 90s, he said, our defense system, he said, believe me, would take down at the smallest of missiles if needed. He said, traveling at speed. And yet, now we're in 2024 and we're getting accounts and video footage of drones flying over secured military airspace, and they're telling us that they can't take them down. Why? They are capable of taking them down. So why can't they take them down?
I think Trump's statement was very, very rushed. I don't think he looked into it properly. The FAA put a statement out only a few months ago saying that they have absolutely no idea where these drones have come from or what they are. And now all of a sudden, Trump says that the FAA know. I'm in two minds with these drones. This really could be it could be the false flag that Stephen Greer spoke about all this time. I think it's called Project Bluebeam, where they was going to run a false flag operation, a fake alien invasion. You know, if they managed to develop some technology in secret, that would actually be quite easy to do if they had the technology. But I'm beginning to wonder, with the state of affairs in the world, whether it would be politically safe for them to even think about running a fake operation with everything else, the JFK files, Martin Luther King files, the Roswell files, all the things they're keeping, confidence in politics, I quite comfortably say worldwide is probably at an all-time low. No, the governments across the world, not just America, UK, Russia, almost definitely Russia. The Russians wouldn't want this war. China, the oppression they suffer over the big brother state. The politics isn't safe. I don't think it would be safe enough for them to run a false flag operation now, right this second. It would be political suicide for any of the governments that done that. FAA, they've been quiet. The Air Force, the Navy, even the Pentagon have been quiet about it. But we still don't know what was shot out of the sky 3 years ago, Phil. There were several objects shot out of the sky a couple of years ago in America.
Was that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it started with a Chinese spy balloon, and then they continued shooting another 3 or 4 objects down out of the sky. One of them landed I think in Alaska somewhere up in the mountains. they sent helicopters over to have a look at it. And then apparently there's a guy up there. He's a UFO fan, and he's been watching the skies over there for any recovery operation, which hasn't happened yet. So we still don't even know what they have shot out of the sky 3 years ago. And if they don't know what this is, and they start shooting out of the sky in broad daylight, that is, if that doesn't belong to, let's put it, if it belongs to China, is that a declaration of war? Is that a declaration of war? It's like you're just going to stir more political problems, or the other, the alternative is some. It was a podcast that I see possibly last week. It might have been an older one, where it was mentioned that maybe it's because they don't know what to do about it, that they're actually so confident that, oh no, it doesn't pose a threat, you know, we're in control of this, people, when deep down that's the secret, is they're really not. They have absolutely no idea what this is, yet they can't tell the people that, because it would just erode confidence.
It's tantamount to war, though, by going into military airspace. Anyway,
absolutely, 100%.
What do you think? I've got a tiny little I don't know, TikTok or Temu or one of those. I've got a tiny little drone that I got. It's not one of these super duper ones. I think it's about 35, 40 quid one, something like that. It's not a real super duper one, but it's just one with a controller. I'm still mastering it. I haven't mastered it, to be honest. You know, and then I kind of I took it out once into that garden. It hit the fence, and I thought, oh, that's great. So I've got to take it to a field. When my leg's better, I've got to take it to a field when it's a nice big open field and just give it a good go. But regardless, if I took that drone to Lakenheath, Mildenhall, or even Feltwell, and I went over their perimeter fence with my little 40 quid drone, how soon before one of the meat pies, one of the MPs, coming round in a Jeep and arresting me, how soon would I have to wait? I would say minutes.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough to get near there. Yeah. Without them seeing that, you know. No, absolutely, Phil. Honestly, there's something. There's something untoward with these drones. There's absolutely wherever they're from or whatever they're doing there. It's untoward. If it is a foreign power, that is a declaration of war. There's no two ways. If it's someone within what they call the deep state over there, that is a coup d'état. Yep. Whatever way you look at it, it is paramount to an invasion.
Yeah.
Wherever it's from. If it doesn't belong to the Americans, but if it does belong to the Americans and they've got this technology, why are they not telling people? Why are they letting them be worried out of their wits, witnessing these things, worried about invasions, worried about drones and China and all the warmongering? Why are they not telling people?
I remember
I remember because they don't even know, Phil. I don't even think they know what these things are, or half of them at least.
No, but I think you're right. I mean, it's either one or two things. It's either Elon Musk testing out his drones, because I remember in
some more drone babies.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't it? Well, I remember him being on stage, and they were talking about you know, the new, at the time, the new F-35E coming out, you know, the super duper, the one that can, like a Harrier jet, can actually hover. They were talking about that, and he said on stage, I remember watching this, he said on stage, I think jets will be a thing of the past with pilots. He said the future is going to be in unmanned drone technology. That will be the battlefield of the air in the future. That's what he said. And I think he's one to, obviously he's going to self-promote his own business, isn't he? He's going to,
yeah, of course. Like,
you know, I mean, everything he's doing is autonomous, isn't it, more or less? His cars, the robot he's got out, and, you know, everything else. I mean, it's not, so it would be kind of like it would be in a way a quite a good playground for him to test it out on, I suppose. Even the
Yeah,
base wouldn't probably know that it's his drone, that is his
yeah, yeah,
drones.
yeah, yeah.
But saying that, um, I still don't get it that they weren't able to shoot them down. I just because if they didn't know it was a test and they saw it was over their military airspace.
If they
It's their
shoot them
military
down,
airspace.
they're basically admitting there's a problem.
Yeah,
If
but they're
they've got
basically admitting it. They're basically admitting there is a problem at the moment because they're
no,
not
no, no, no.
they're not
Well,
telling
gentlemen,
anyone.
if they're just floating around and the FAA can explain these, that's not a problem. If you start shooting them down, that starts raising questions. Like we're still talking about questions regarding the 5 things they shot out of the sky nearly 3 years ago. I think it is 3 years this year. I think
Yeah,
that happened,
yeah,
and we still don't know what that is. There's Ross Carter. He said that one of them for sure is anomalous. 100% it's anomalous. And getting on to anomalous, what do you think about the Jake Barber confession, if you like?
yeah. No, yeah. Uh, yeah. I think it's kind of in a way. I think all of the confessions that have I wrapped them up all kind of like in a bit of a bundle, really. In a way, and I kind of I think they're all. I've To a certain degree, I think they know a lot more than what they're letting out,
Yes.
a lot more, and I think that they, in a way, all of these so-called whistleblowers and are allowed to whistleblow and allowed to give out a certain amount of information because I honestly do think that we have to be fed a certain amount. We're shown a certain amount. Christ, I can't. Do you know what? I can't switch TV on now without some program ending up with multiverse, portals, aliens. Nearly everything I watch has some reference to that. There's going to be some reference to either or one of those subjects, and the storyline, the narrative of the plot is going to end up, even so much so. I say to my missus, "Oh, I know this is going to be, it's going to be a portal to another universe. That one is, yeah, I know that's going to end, yeah, because it's getting so commonplace, which I
Yeah.
think is what they want. That's what they're doing. They're kind of like,
I think
it's
so. I think they speak of ontological shock, and I don't think. I think the conditioning of people has gone on long enough, Phil. But there's not many people alive today now that if you said to them categorically UFOs are real, and you had
mm,
evidence, and they were teaching it would come as probably a relief that they're not being lied to anymore. It's someone described it as ontological relief, not shock, because we all know we've been lied to. We all know there's something there. We've been conditioned for it for the past at least 70 years. And for them to come forward, it's like they haven't got to do a massive presidential disclosure to do this. They've just conditioned people, the world, if you like, over the past 60 or 70 years with that little bit of ridicule in mind, to keep it light-hearted or, as part of the deception. So I
but
don't think it's going to be a shock, but it's the claims that he's made regarding CE5 that have really got our ears pricked up as a group, our CE5 Leicester group. His claims of the retrievals and the covert work that he's done are
mm,
absolute. I mean, like breathtaking. This guy is like a living Rambo. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
He really is. But on the flip, this guy he seems to have a very genuine spiritual side to him, and he has experienced himself emotion. I've never experienced that type of emotion through CE5 that he's experienced on some of these missions and things. But the way he spoke, and some of his team have spoken about their methodology for the CE5. We've had to read between the lines a bit, Phil, because he's not actually given up a handbook on how to do it yet. So
No.
their protocol, from what they've described, their way of what they're saying is contact, or their way of attracting these objects, should we say? I'd like to say that it's still not been proved solid that this is a contact experience. It's a correlation of events, not a contact, possibly. But he seems to think that his team have actually landed a craft. They've actually used CE5 to mentally go into space to make physical contact with the consciousness of a craft and land it, and actually bring it back in to land it. That's what his claims are.
Right. Okay. I'm thinking of someone else. All right. I didn't know that. I'm thinking of somebody else.
No, Jake Barber. What I'll do, I'll send you over a link when we stop talking. I'll send you over a couple of links to get your head around. No, so I'll leave you to have a look at that. Please. Sorry, I'll get very excited about this. This is massive leap.
So there's another guy that I listen to. Oh, do you need to go? You can have a break if you want.
2 seconds. I'll just say bye to my daughter. She's just leaving.
Yeah, go on. That's fine. That's fine.
See you later. Oh, there she goes. Sorry about that, mate. Will you chop and edit this, Phil?
Yeah, that's fine. No, this is live. This looks like it's a live stream. This one, it looks like it's a live stream. But I tell you what, what I can do. No, that's fine. That's fine. That's all right. I'll be all right. It's fine. People understand, But people have lives. Like we have lives. People have lives. It doesn't matter, does it? Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. You said that. There's another guy I watch, which he assumes a alien. He assumes the persona of an alien called Bashar. Have you seen him?
Oh,
that American guy.
I've seen this. I've seen.
And he's on a stage on his own, and he kind of like takes this personality of the alien, overtakes him, and he sort of like talks as Bashar.
They're channeling. They call it channeling, don't they? I think I know who you're talking about. The guy that I'm talking about is the latest whistleblower to come forward regarding the UAP topic. His name's Jake Barber.
What position does he hold in government, in American government? Is he American?
Oh, he's not. This guy is a crash retrieval specialist for the government.
Okay.
He's a private contractor, but he also he's come forward and he said that he's recovered for the government and for private aerospace several non-human craft. And when he's been asked who these, how do you know? How would you know it's non-human? And he said the main difference is when we go and pick them up. He said all the channels change, all the communications channels change to a very, very top secret level. He said, and the craft that we've retrieved, as we approached them, they have no wings, no propellers, no anything. And the one that they have retrieved, and they've shown what I think is they've shown some evidence of it, Phil, but I'm still a little bit skeptical about the evidence. They've shown a 5-second clip that was taken with night vision, and it shows them moving an egg, a giant 20-foot egg. Are you familiar with this now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is this the egg? This is? I've seen one. I think it was during the day. This one, but where it's suspended by a steel cable from a
Yes.
helicopter
Yes, it
being
is. That's the one.
transported.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the
that's the
one.
one. Yeah.
So,
So yeah, this is a new thing now. This well, new thing. It's an old thing. In the 1920s, 30s, if I remember rightly, there was a talk of and eggs, and a lot of TV's sci-fi shows used to in the 60s used to have like this white egg shape that an alien would come out of. Um, so yeah, it it's kind of like an odd thing to get your head around, Chris, really, because it's we have uh is it now a different species? So we have the archetypal flying saucer with the dome on top. Then we went on and we evolved to the triangles,
yes.
black triangles that you witnessed. You
Yes,
witnessed one
I
as
have.
well,
Yep. Yep.
the Cosford Triangle. So we had that. I spoke to another witness who was, but she gave an audio on my channel, and she was near Eastbourne at the time, and she saw three triangles coming over the from the sea towards the beach and down the coast. She was with her boyfriend at the time. They were just canoodling on a bench. She said she
Yes.
wasn't, but I think they were canoodling on a bench. They just saw these three triangles coming out of the ocean, coming from the ocean, and towards them, and then down the beach, like yourself, really, in a way, but not as dramatic as your one. But triangle. Uh,
Oh, you seem to have gone, Phil.
I'm gone. Yeah,
Hello.
I'm back. I'm
Oh,
back.
there
I'm
you
back.
are.
I'm
You
back.
are.
I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. Yeah. I think something. Yeah, is it? I'm just looking at the Wi-Fi at the moment. It's okay. It's still quite stable. So I don't know what happened there, but yeah, it's the powers to be up above. That's what it is. We're talking about them, and they're kind of like, yes, we're going to take him off before he says anything. But yeah, so why is this? Why is this? If it is us doing this or a government secret body doing this, is it that they're like kind of testing out new craft?
Possibly quite, but it is anything. So I think anything's on the table at the moment. However, you've got the David Grush allegations. You've now got the Jake Barber allegations. You've had Lou Elizondo rattling on for 6 years now, 7 years.
Mm, mm,
You've had Stephen Greer for 30 years.
yeah,
I don't think they can. Yes, I think they've got technology. I think they have to. They've got technology that they don't want the world to see. They and all governments will have that. But they've also got something else very, very profound going on there that I think be safe to say they've probably got an explanation for some of it or quite a lot of it, but they still can't explain certain aspects of it, i.e., like Skinwalker Ranch or cryptids,
mm,
or there's certain aspects of this that they can't explain. And I was only just saying this morning to somebody that if this stuff had fallen out of the sky 75 years ago and it did not have a nuclear signature, it didn't emit any nuclear radiation, the public would have known about this by now. But the whole lot seems to have been kept under the atomic secrets because of the radiation levels involved with quite a lot of these objects, you know, um,
right, yeah.
which always found fascinating.
Yeah, it is, yeah, because if they're organic creatures, which they seem to be, they seem to be organic in whenever they're seen or spoken about or
Yes.
witnessed,
Yes.
then of course, they would also, one would think that, their cells would deteriorate with radiation anyway. So they would not want to be, they would not use radiation. So, I think probably it's just another scaremonger, oh no, don't go near there because it's got high doses of radiation.
Yes.
Or they implement something which sets the radiation detectors off. You see, the thing is that gets me. I'll tell you what gets me, and I'm going to use an analogy here. We talk about not letting the people know. So Margaret Thatcher famously said, didn't she, when a reporter came up to her, and the reporter was like doing a book on the Rendlesham Forest case, and she went up to Margaret Thatcher as she was walking in. I think she caught her a bit of a weak moment where old Thatcher was the old milk snatcher was going into a party or something, a dinner date she had. So, and she caught her by the door and she said, Mrs. Prime Minister, would you, or not Miss Prime Minister, but Prime Minister, Rendlesham, you obviously, know more than what's going on. What's going on there? The craft that was meant to have landed. And she turned around and she said, very famously, she said, uh, that there is like stuff going on, but you can't tell the people. We can't tell the people. That, as she famously said. And I think that to a certain degree is quite right. Now, I'm going to use an analogy here. So, right. Now,
She wasn't the only world leader to say that either.
I think probably not.
Obama said it.
Oh, did he?
Yes, he did. Exactly that. Oh, he said along the lines, he said, when asked, why don't you tell people? Why are you not telling people about it? He said, because the aliens won't let us. We can't tell the people because they won't let us. He said that very openly, but people took that as a joke. However, in David Rush's statement, that there's been an agreement reached with a non-human intelligence. Part of that agreement is likely to be that they did not want the people to know that we were ready for it.
No, you're gone. What's going on? There you go. We're back.
There we go.
Back. Yeah, we're back.
That they didn't want the people to know. I hear that quite frequently as well. That they didn't want the people to know. They didn't feel the people were ready. They would feel it was too much of a shock. The little bits in history where they've interacted it's looking more and more like it's to help the human race move forward out of this tribal warring monkey stage that we're in now and into some form of other utopian reality that I could only call it a wishful thinking, peaceful reality where we're part of a much bigger, like a cosmic neighborhood, we're not just killing each other because we believe something is there. That could be the other thing as well, Phil. You've got so many religious people in the world. You've got a million Muslims, you've got a million Catholic, you've got X amount of, I think there's 4 million practicing religion somewhere in the world at the moment. That's well over half of all people on the planet actually pray to a God that they believe in.
Yeah.
They believe in that. Yeah.
Well,
we know something's there because we're talking about it now. This is what's brought everybody together on the UAP topic. But when they lift the lid on this, it's very, very likely that all the major religions have been spawned from this. And this was their way to describe it,
Well, yeah, they're kind of they made it was quite. I thought everything in a way follows a pattern. And last year in the autumn, I think it was about October time, there was a statement by the Catholic Church. And a statement by the Catholic Church turned around and, amongst other things, claimed ownership of any or all aliens if they were to be found or made public. They turned around and said, "I've got it. I've got the statutory statement." What it encompassed was miracles. So it encompassed things that people saw, and it may be unexplained miracles of weeping statues.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, it also ventured to say with the aliens, and it said if it ever came out that aliens did exist, then it's all part of God's greater plan. God created them as much as he created the universe we live in.
Yes.
So they're basically claiming them as well, which is a funny thing to do. It's kind of like back then I done a short video letting people know that this statement was coming out. I done this the day before because I thought it was a pivotal moment in the Catholic Church to turn around and to say that a a previously fanciful joke, a previously fanciful science fiction joke, if it was real, it would be by the will of God. So, what it makes you think, why would they turn around? They must have had a meeting and said, look, I tell you what, right, things are hotting up. A lot of people, or there's going to be a lot of drones coming out soon that we know about. There's going to be a lot of people out there, right, who follow us, who are going to be questioning stuff. We better bring out a statement saying that if there is any aliens, because they're going to be talking about them, because there's going to be loads of little drones flying around. We know that. We know they're coming. We know that they're not happy. We know that they're going to be landing in eggs. There's going to be this coming out. There's going to be that shown. There's going to be flying over here. We know this because we are one of, there is almost a sovereign state in unto themselves, with an awful lot of power to wield. The Vatican are. So by saying that statement, it is basically saying, yes, we know about it, and we if it appears, don't worry, because we're still top dogs, because they're created by our one single creator, which is, I just find it really, kind of that was baffling. Well before the drones, that was baffling. Then I was like, what on earth would they? It's like saying we believe in leprechauns.
Well, I think for thousands of years, even the Egyptians, whoever put the hieroglyphics down and spoke of the afterlife and how they dressed their dead and mummified the dead in preparation for the afterlife, they knew then there was some form of afterlife, and I think the theories are picking up more and more evidence, even recently in newspapers, saying that they actually they believe they found the ferryman out of the old Greek. When the ferryman, I think the tradition was you would put coin, or was that maybe a Norwegian thing? Put coins in the eyes. That the ferryman would take you to the afterlife.
Yeah.
Now they believe the ferryman is a part of is possibly a chemical reaction in the brain at the point of death that may be even linked to DMT or dimethyltryptamine.
Right.
They think they found that. They think that consciousness is non-local. So obviously you've got people that can do remote viewing, ESP, and things like that. The consciousness goes actually beyond the physical body. That's gaining more and more steam as we speak. There's developments in that area, and I think the conscious, when people talk about the ultimate God, the God that made everything, yeah, I think they're actually referring to the actual, what we will probably find out to be the consciousness field that encompasses everything in the universe. I think
Mm.
it's a singular field that they're actually, from what the reports of people that have maybe had some experience of this field, as that it comes with a huge feminine energy, massive feminine energy. Um,
Interesting.
the, the,
Feminine.
the consciousness like a field, and any it's hard to say, like apparitions or I don't know what the word would be, any like any things
Did thing.
that manifest from this field, you
Mm.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. I think that's when they speak of God, and even God made yes, he did, and he the bodily form of most things is going to be put together by nature, but it all taps into this singular consciousness field, and that's what I believe that they'd be talking about. That's your true God. That's what gives everything its consciousness and ultimately life.
Yeah, I think consciousness is a is in two parts. I think we have our brain, and I think which is fine. The physicality of our brain, we have that in there. Um, it's the most fattiest part of our body, evidently. Um, but that's why they say it's good to have a certain amount of cholesterol for it. But so we have our brain, but then I do think that we have a conscious mind that is a hive mind that is external.
Oh
I,
yes,
I
yeah,
do believe that because,
absolutely, yes.
as I spoke before, a great example is with coma patients. Coma patients, when they're in the bed and they're either put into a coma or they're in a coma because it's kind of like a protection for the brain. They kind of like the brain goes on shutdown. Can't deal with that. The RTA I just suffered. Can't deal with that at the moment. I'm going to go and shut down. They still, even though there's no electrical impulses in the brain, it's still able to, when the person's awake, turn around and say to the nurse, "Nurse, thank you for coming and holding my hand." My sister, she came and she poured me a glass of water. I remember, and she kissed my forehead. I remember that. Well, hang on. You were basically brain dead. There was no activity going on. Your body was being kept alive. You were put into a coma. How do you know that? How did you see? So I think there is probably, yeah, because of that, there is a conscious mind, and a lot of people astral project, and I think that's part
I was
of it.
just going to say astral
Mm,
projection could be
you know,
responsible.
and I think that's part of it. So I think whether that is God, I personally have got to say no. I don't think so, but I do think that there is a hive mind which is out there, which is all prevailing that we tap into,
Oh,
and a lot of
I
times.
can give you a good example of that. Would be the pyramids around the world. Yeah, they all popped up within 1,000 years of each other. You look at how long even human history goes back, 3 million years. Yet all over the world, within a few thousand years, with no way to get to these other continents, like between Africa, America, China, because of the Pacific and the Atlantic. Yet this hive mind, it sort of almost spread like the wind, if you like, around the world, where these people were compelled, with no mobile phones, with no visual records, with no anything else, to build very, very similar, massive
Mm,
constructions projects that resulted in pyramids and things like that. That's how I think I think that's an aspect to that hive mind on a grand scale as well, not just on an interpersonal scale. That would be also on a huge global scale that there is some correlation between certain events. The building of the pyramids, the introduction of writings across the world, all happened within a few thousand years, So I think there is this, there is a hive mind between individuals, but there's also this huge global hive mind as well, where certain fads, crazes, or ideas, especially, that literally float about in the ether, and they just pop up within these certain small periods of time. It's that I find that very fascinating. Very fascinating.
Yeah. I must admit, I do. And before we get on to the video, I just want to
Yes.
backtrack a little bit onto the you can't tell the people.
Yes.
So, right. So, Chris, this is just a for instance that I thought of. Right now, it's a bit of an analogy, and we off camera were speaking about this. Right,
Yes.
but so you can't tell the people. So let's just say that it's not the aliens that are saying you can't tell the people. Yeah, can't let them know. Or maybe it is. Maybe it is. What would be the reason behind not telling the people? Now, having myself sort of 58, well, it was about a few years back now, it was about 4 years back, being aware that I could have a life-threatening disease, being
Yes.
aware of that. I could have had a life-threatening disease. So, as an analogy, being aware that there's another species of superior beings that are running the show. How did I feel about that? How did I feel about having that life-threatening disease? If it, like, thank God it didn't turn out to be life-threatening.
Yeah.
But how
No.
did I feel? And I can tell you how I felt. And it's the same, I think, as if you told the people that all of this is not actually run by us. Yeah, we're dictated to like puppets, and the government's dictated to like puppets because there is another, and has been for hundreds of years probably, another ulterior motive by another species or species
Yeah.
that is running the show. How would people react? I think they'd react in the same way as being told you've got a life-threatening disease, where they would turn around and go, do you know what? What's the point? Yeah, I might as well just enjoy the rest of the time I got. I think a lot of people would kind of perhaps, like I did. First thing I done was, I wanted to carry on. If I wasn't, for all intents and purposes, I didn't know. If I wasn't going to carry on physically, I wanted my accounts, stories to carry on. That's
Yes.
why I started doing YouTube during COVID. It's the only reason. I weren't going to do it. I weren't going to do any of this.
No.
I weren't
No.
going
No.
to
No.
do it.
No. It's funny
And I
how
think
things.
it is
Yeah.
a funny old world. And I think that's the same thing. You would kind of like, in a way, that's kind of putting your hands up and saying, right, okay, yeah, I know that's it, but I'm going to do the best I can to leave a mark somewhere, so that at some point someone will listen to it and go, oh, that happened to me. Funny enough, oh, that's weird. Yeah,
Yes. And that's
it
why I
could.
come forward. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's the same thing? That's the
I,
same sort of analogy with
I think
people.
so many things that could be happening there as to why they wouldn't want you to know. A couple of good examples would be, if we're going to study a rare animal in the wild, we don't want them to know we're there. But if one come over and sort of detected us, would we run? Probably not. We'd probably just let that one know that we know that one knows we're there. It'd probably run away. It'd never come there again. And but we don't want to disturb their way of life as much as we want to help them continue their way of life by studying them. Do we want them animals to know we're there? No, we do not. Okay, so there's one
Yeah.
way of looking at. That's just one. Secondly, what if we also had a plan as a species for this rare animal we're studying in the wild, which involved taking one out every now and again, changing its genetic code, possibly impregnating it through IVF, and then placing it back out into the wild? Would we want them to know then? Probably even less. We would want them to know. Yeah. So, and then you've got the what if we were, on the other hand, we were providing that species of rare animal with equipment and technology, and so they could help themselves, opposed to being just, you don't give a child everything, you let them learn. Yeah. Yeah, but because they're so advanced, and it could upset the equilibrium, politics, and stuff like on the planet that they live, which would make no difference to this species whatsoever, because all they would do is watch anyway. There's so many reasons for them to keep in the shadows. However, they've done such a shitty job of it, because for 5,000 years, all we've done is fucking half the people on the planet have looked at the fucking sky.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
I mean, it's a very, it's a tough one, because I get it. All right. If there's, because Grush said when he came forward, that not only has there been almost certainly some form of contact made, that exchanges and agreements and exchanges have also been made. Now, it could be that whatever this is, wherever it's from, is handing us a little bit of technology every now and again to try and better ourselves, to try and look after the planet a bit better, to try and help with population control, to help with local wars and things like that. Would you want that species? It'd be like giving the child everything without making them learn how to do it.
Yeah.
So I think there's so many reasons that this could be being kept a secret from their side, whoever this non-human intelligence, but there's also from our side. Would it destabilize? They must have been questioning this for fucking 70 years, Phil. Will it destabilize the government? That would be number one question. Could it destabilize politics? Yes, it could. It could from a religious fundamentalist perspective. It could from a moral perspective. Who's really in charge? Well, the government's not really in charge, and the aliens. I'm not going to listen to the government anymore.
I read that book, Chris. The Lou Elizondo book, Imminent, and
I still haven't. I haven't finished it yet.
Well, there's an interesting bit about 3/4 of the way through, and but he was still working for the DOD, and he was still seconded into the research of these alien phenomenon, these aerial phenomenon. He was seconded into that section, that facet, that Quango group. Anyway, he knew, him and his colleagues, close colleagues, he knew that they were not military. They weren't military. They weren't terrestrial. And he went to one of his good friends who was his superior. And his superior was quite a religious guy. Quite, he used to go to church and quite religious sort of standing, And he turned around, in the book, he turned around to Lou and he said, Lou, listen. He said, I can't tell you any more than these things go back. They're biblical. They go back so far. They're biblical. We're fighting good and evil here.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
So when they say like 70 years, I think probably Roswell was not it. I think it was kind of, do you know what? I think way back in history, but of course and they know about it, but
Oh,
they're not going to say about it.
there's an
They're not going to
account
say
in,
about it.
I think it's about 1850 or 60 in
Mm.
America where they had a supposed craft land, and they buried the pilot of the craft in a cemetery in, I can't remember the name of the bloody
Oh
cemetery.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about? That was about
I know
18.
the one.
That was in the 1800s. That was. I mean, that was another 50 years before Roswell, easily. You know.
Yes. 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 No, I know that one. Yes, I remember that story.
Yeah, and they weren't
Uh,
the local count or the local council, if you like, over there. They wouldn't let them dig up
no,
the
that's right.
grave and
Yeah.
the well
Yeah.
that they apparently they put the materials down into a well, and they haven't. I don't think they've been able to retrieve them materials.
No, that's right. Yes, yeah, I
I think the
remember
name
that. I read
place
that.
in a minute.
Yeah.
It will come to me in a minute.
Yes, I do remember that story. Yeah,
So
no,
it
that's
goes
quite
back to
right.
them, Phil. I mean, and then you've got in the 1500s, you've got obviously we've got no there'll be no material. There may be material evidence in the Vatican archives or something, but there was a very famous case in Germany where reportedly a lot of orbs and cylinders and cross-shaped and
Mm,
triangles came out of the sun, had a battle over
yeah,
this particular place. A lot of the
yeah,
craft crash landed and vanished
mm,
into the ground. They just vanished, burnt, and completely vanished. And
mm,
that account was written, it was drawn then.
yeah,
It's
that's
a
right.
very, very famous set
Mm,
of paintings. I think there's a
yeah,
couple of paintings, not just one. There is one main one, but there
yeah,
is other paintings depicting that particular
mm,
event. So that's 500 years ago.
yeah. And 1800s, 1800s, we had an awful lot of sightings of craft because this is before planes, before
Yes,
fixed wing
before the
planes. Had
Wright
a lot of
brothers.
sightings
Yep.
of craft, and they always equated it to being, which we could now say, egg-shaped craft, but they called them airships. They were like they looked like an airship,
Yeah.
and but they weren't. They were kind of something else from somewhere else. So this stuff has been going on for a certain, certainly hundreds and hundreds of years. You are completely right. But it's odd that there's no I don't know. There's just no evidence. All the evidence is swept up, packed up, Indiana Jones style, and carried away in boxes and stuffed in a Smithsonian Institute in
Well,
some giant room.
a good example of that is the contents from a tomb called the Talpiot tomb in uh, modern day Middle East. I'll call it that for peace sake.
Hmm.
So they found this tomb in the 80s, and during they were doing some building work, and they using dynamite. They blew this place up, and they found this tomb it had like almost like a V shape. If on its side, if you put it on its side, it looks like a fish's head above
Hmm.
this tomb, and they pulled out several ossuaries from the tomb. But they were all the main names of the New Testament. They were all New Testament names. You had
Ah.
Jesus, you had two Marys, an older one, and what was her name now? Mariamne. Mariamne was Mary Magdalene in the Gospel of Philip,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
never made it to the main New Testament. So they had all the ossuaries from this from the period. All of them related to the New Testament family of Jesus, and that was in 1980. And to this day, people know that's there, but it's just in it's in a museum in Israel, and they're
Hmm.
not releasing it. They're not saying that oh, this is 100% or anything like that. It's just literally been put in a warehouse like an Indiana Jones thing.
Odd, isn't it? It's just like it's just crazy, isn't it? It's absolutely crazy. There's so much which is I always found it crazy that when Hitler meant to have shot himself. It's the same thing. Hitler meant to shot himself.
Yeah.
The Russians came.
I need to go and get a power cable for this laptop very quickly.
Yeah, no worries, mate. You crack on.
Literally 30 seconds.
That's all right. That's all right. Right, what I'm going to do, I think, is I'll stop the feed there and I'll restart it up, okay? Right then. Okay. Right, Chris, what I'm going to do, I'm going to...
Now, mate. There you go.
No worries, no worries. What I'm going to do, I'm going to stop this recording, okay? I'm going to start up a new one straight away, but I'm going to put another header on and I'm going to put a couple of tags on so that we can get a few more people on, some people on. I know it's the afternoon, but I'm going to get a few more. I'm going to stop this one, I think. If I restart it and just put a new header on, rather than CE5 Group is gearing up, with Chris Machin, I'll put something like UFO, UAP, something like that, which is easier for people to find.
No, whatever you want to do, mate, it's no problem at all.
Is that all right? I think if we do that, then we can get some people on before we show the video, and I think that would be a better idea because at the moment we're not getting anyone on at the moment. I know it's the afternoon, but still there should be some people on. So I think if we do that, might do. But there again, people might jump on later. What do you think?
It's entirely up to you, Phil. Honestly.
All right then. What I'll do, I'll stop it now, and then we'll do a part 2. We'll do a part 2 coming straight up. All right.
No problem.
All right. Anyone watching this, don't wait. There's going to be a part 2.